Hey everyone, you're listening to the SCD Lifestyle Solution Podcast number 24. I'm Steve Wright, and on the phone with me tonight is Jordan Reesner. How's it going, man?
Hey man, it's going awesome today.
Yeah, you loving this Michigan weather? Go from about 95 down to 60?
Yeah man, as long as I don't have to bake. I can't bake in 95-degree weather. About kills me.
Well, I don't know why you're baking, man, but you should be grilling. That's what I've been doing for like the last 3 weeks. It's been awesome.
Yeah, time to bust out the charcoal, man. It's good stuff.
Oh, nothing better than a steak on some charcoal. All right, well, it's been a couple weeks since we released a Q&A podcast, so we want to thank everybody who's sent in questions in the meantime. We got a little bit of a queue backing up, so we figured we'd get back at it. Jordan, you ready to rip on some Q&A tonight?
I'm ready, man. Let's roll.
All right, cool.
Alright, well I'm gonna fire the first one your way. You ready?
Yep.
Alright, this is from Thedra. Says, "Hi guys, love your site and podcast. They're so helpful and fun to listen to. Thank you, thank you. I've had UC for about 8 years. I've been on SCD and medicine free for a year and a half with most success. Congratulations. I continue to have little flares even though I never cheat and eat mostly the same foods. I've tweaked and eliminated foods, but nothing seems to be a trigger. I can eat dairy or eggs or peanut butter or the other four horsemen for weeks or even months and then just start doing badly. So then I go back to the first foods and get better again for a period. Anyway, my question is about getting some lab work done like I hear you guys talk about. Maybe there'd be some useful info that could help me in the results. Exactly what type of lab results do you guys recommend? And what would I learn or change based on the findings? It's hard to find doctors who are helpful or agreeable to people who want to help themselves in nutrition, but I do have access to a lab that will run whatever tests I needed. Thanks for what you do."
Cool. Great question. Well, first of all, it's awesome that you've been on SCD for so long and you're seeing some great results, but I definitely understand how frustrating it can be when you have these sort of random setbacks when you're really trying to take care of your health and going all after it. So the first thing that kind of strikes me about the story that you told in your question is that maybe the triggers aren't actually food or supplement related. And maybe because there is this huge gut-brain connection, that the triggers are life events, maybe like a stressful deadline at work or particularly bad situation that happens at home or something like that, or just any time in which you get a little pent up and don't get that stress relief going on, because there's a huge gut brain connection, and stress, lack of sleep, those can be triggers for people's setbacks. So I would, if you're charting your foods and you're charting that kind of stuff, definitely start charting your stress levels and maybe any other big life events, like you get a new pet or you go on vacation, different things like that, and you might start seeing a pattern there. But if we want to go back to the test and what you can do, I guess not knowing what you've already done, if you're kind of searching for that last little bit percentage, I'm not sure how great your health is when you're not um, in a setback. But if it's really great and you're just kind of wondering, I guess there's a couple things that come to mind. First would be your thyroid, because your thyroid's extremely important for digestive health. So I would get a thyroid panel run, and with that you'd want to ask for your TSH, your T3, your free T4, and then also get your thyroid antibodies, TPO and TGAB, tested as well. That'll make sure that everything's going well in your thyroid. From what we've studied and learned, usually you want to see your TSH lower than 1.5. Anything below that is usually in the good range, even though you'll see on the test the range is like zero point 0.5 to 5 or something like that. The next thing I would look at is hormones. Those can be kind of a trigger. You might be, maybe a little estrogen dominant or testosterone dominant, so you might get some hormonal panel run right there, and then based on that, you could probably work with your doctor and make some tweaks. And then the last thing you might want to check out is just throw like the broad spectrum right at it. So get an intracellular vitamin and mineral panel done by SpectraCell, and what that's going to do for you is it's going to see what's in your cells actually, not what's in the blood, and see if you have any lingering, vitamin or mineral deficiency that keeps creeping up on you. Maybe you're, dangerously low on a couple of them, and maybe all you need is a multivitamin, or maybe you need some B12, something like that, and it might just take you up to a whole nother level.
That was great, Steve. The only thing I'll add is just to reiterate that the gut-brain connection is very strong, and it's a rabbit hole that Steve and I have a little special side project that we're just getting into, and it's something that we just don't know a lot about. I did recently read some studies that link the gut-brain connection to people with digestive disease to be even more affected by stress. And specifically, it was talking about UC patients being more affected by stress. Their inflammation and their immune response was more linked to stress in their brain. I can't cite it right now because I can't remember where I saw it. But what I will say is that you could try some meditation. I mean, this is like really high-end, final 10% of your health stuff. You could try some meditation, just some breathing, anything that's going to reduce your stress levels, get stressful things out of your life, that kind of thing. And you might find that that might be the one thing that is actually triggering things. So it's a good place to start.
Good stuff, good stuff. Well, let's move on to the next question, Jordan. This one's for you. From Anonymous, I have resistant E. coli infection in the small bowel. How would SCD assist me? He says he or she says they're eating protein and low fermenting carbs.
All right, good question. So E. coli is actually a beneficial bacteria in a way, and it's one of those bacteria that's just part of the 500 microbes that's in our gut that's there, and they live symbiotically. Now, they're not supposed to get out of control. Our beneficial bacteria like lactobacillus and bifidobacteria, they're supposed to work together to kind of control the E. coli. So this is obviously a resistant strain of it that's out of control. Suggests you have some bacterial overgrowth as well. You have low beneficial bacteria. You have high inflammation. So in this instance, SCD being that you would follow assuming you would follow a low carb version of SCD at first, low sugar, low fruit, you would want to really use that to lower your inflammation, create an environment where your good bacteria is going to flourish. You want to supplement with probiotics. Start with the lactobacillus family, specifically Lactobacillus acidophilus, and then possibly look at trying to test SCD legal yogurt because of the massive probiotics that are in there. I would be cautious about the bifidobacteria family right now because it can overgrow as well, and you might end up in an even worse situation. So I would just keep focusing on those things. Get your probiotics up, lower your inflammation, and I think that once you get those E. coli tested again later on, you might find that they're improving.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
All right, cool. I'm gonna keep rolling. I'm gonna kick this one your way. I'm new to SCD and have only listened to 5 podcasts. You may have covered this question. I'd love to hear your tips on ordering while eating out. I don't eat red meat, so I've been ordering chicken or crab shrimp salads, leaving out any illegal substances such as tortilla strips or garbanzo beans, with which I use oil and vinegar dressing, or I get grilled fish and veggies. Any other hints would be appreciated.
Yeah, this is a really common question that we get all the time. So love to talk about it. I think already what you talked about is you're doing some great things. Obviously, another good thing to eat a lot other than fish is actually red meat, like steaks and stuff, because they're usually not marinated. Most people like steak connoisseurs and that kind of stuff are gonna want their steak, high quality and not being touched by other stuff. So it's always a good idea if you do eat red meat to dip your toes into that area. I'd be careful with the chicken because a lot of restaurants, especially chain restaurants, will marinate all their chicken. So you do want to ask when you're eating chicken, does the chicken come from a marinated batch or not? So what I like to do is, like when I go to a restaurant, is I really try to chat up the waiter and just really explain, I have some digestive problems and, I follow a specific diet and that kind of stuff. So I apologize for all these questions, but can you just bear with me for a little while? Normally they're really great. I always ask about which meats are marinated. Where do the vegetables come from? Do they come from a can, a bag, fresh, that kind of thing? And then the next thing I do is, before the waiter or waitress even gets there, is I scan the menu and I'm looking for any items, like you said, that might be fish and veggies or a salad that I know is possibly SCD legal, so I can ask specifically about those dishes. And if I look at it and I'm just like, oh man, I don't see anything on this menu that is even close to being SC legal. Like say everything's breaded or it's like a Italian joint or something like that. So the next thing I do is I try to look for two dishes to combine. And when I mean combine, I look for one that has a bunch of side dishes that I want, such as like, broccoli and squash. And then I'm also looking for a meat, like I said, probably a fish or red meat. That I'm hoping is not marinated. And what I'll do is I'll combine the two. And so after I ask all my questions, I'll be like, okay, well, could you, in this instance, could we kind of combine two dinners? Could I get this? I always go with the entree because that's going to be your more expensive probably. So order that dish, but keep all the sides. And can I get these other ones over here? And that's always gone really well. I've done that on salads where I've asked them to hold some nuts or hold the dressing and that kind of thing, and add other things. And it's always worked out really well. And a lot of times, actually, chefs like it because it's different. So that's kind of the best I got right now.
That was good, man. I think all I'll say is that you wrote an amazing article on our blog. It's called How to Eat at Restaurants on the Specific Carbohydrate Diet. If you go to our blog on the right sidebar and search in the search bar for the word restaurant, you'll find it. It has a specific script of questions to ask when you call in. So, Steve, you wrote a great article there. I've used it myself, and it works great. So I would say definitely check that resource out as well.
Good catch. I didn't even think about that. Okay, well let's keep on rolling to another question from Chris. I've been eating SCD for my colitis for a couple months, and I've been doing well. Very good, cool for you. I used to make a smoothie with coconut milk and banana, but decided I wanted to eliminate fruit. I heard you talking about stevia in your last podcast. Do you think it would be okay to have stevia on a regular basis to sweeten my coconut milk? Thanks.
All right, Chris, that's a good question. I would rather see you try to use honey there. Going back to Elaine, she was against stevia because she felt that it resembled a steroid on a molecular level, and she was just kind of skeptical of it. There wasn't a lot of research at the time. Either way, just be careful. She did eventually say that stevia can be used in minuscule amounts as part of supplements. But again, I would look at honey, but I have to ask you, what made you want to eliminate fruit? If you felt like fruit was something you needed to eliminate to improve your symptoms even more, then increasing your honey is probably not going to be a good idea. But I would also be very cautious of the coconut milk. We see that the ingredients in coconut milk can tend to crush people sometimes. So, like I said, I'd rather see you use honey. Be careful with sweeteners. They can be deceiving. They can allow bacteria to grow if you're still having problems with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. But again, it's not congruent there for me to see that you're wanting to eliminate fruit, but you want to increase your honey, or you want to increase your sugars. So hopefully you can take some of that away, but just be cautious when you're doing it.
Yeah, frozen fruit makes a great sweetener. So, but I agree with Jordan there. It doesn't really make sense that you're trying to eliminate a sugar, but you want to add another sugar, which all sweeteners are just a form of sugar. So, a little bit of incongruency there, Chris. But we'd rather see you stick with the whole stuff, the unprocessed foods.
Perfect. All right, moving on. Question 5. Food suggestions for surviving the summer well SCD. Park trips, beach, camp, car, travel, etc.
Great question for the summer as we come up. So there's lots of things to do here. The first thing is kind of think about what the trip is. Is it a day trip? Is it an overnight trip? What sort of heating sources are you going to have around you? Is there going to be a charcoal grill at the beach? Are you going to be near a microwave? Are you going to bring your own propane grill if you're camping or something? So based on knowing how long you're going to be gone and what sort of heat sources you're going to have, that kind of really defines, I think, what you should be looking to bring with you. So, for instance, if you're not going to have a heat source, you're going to want to make things that are good cold. You want to bring foods that you can snack on, and that you don't need to rely on. Hopefully, don't rely on ice, even if possible. You can just kind of put it in a cooler with some ice packs, and you'll be all set. So, in that kind of a trip, I would talk about, or I'd be looking at things like avocados. Maybe make your own SCD legal trail mix. Get some raisins and some walnuts and some almonds. Kind of throw those together if you're advanced enough for that. You can make almond flour muffins. Those don't need to be reheated. The other thing you could do is pre-make a big chicken salad. So just throw a bunch of fresh vegetables just chopped up into a big Tupperware thing, and then grill up some chicken and just dice it up, and it's a cold chicken salad. I mean, everybody loves that. It's great. And then another thing is you could chop up a bunch of different fruits, throw it in a Tupperware as well, and that's going to be a great fruit salad to go along with that. Now, obviously, you could take those on a longer trip too, but say you're going on a longer trip where you had a grilling source, or you had to plan for several days, then you could, start looking at things like making lettuce burgers. Just buy a head of lettuce and some beef. You can just grill up the burgers and put them on lettuce with some other veggies, some onions or tomatoes if you want. Always, you can cook eggs and bacon on a griddle in the morning if you need to. Pick up steaks or fish and some tin foil and grill on that if you want. It's really just got to be a little inventive there and just kind of wing it. But there's a lot of little cool things you can do if you're on the road. Jordan, you got any other ideas off the top of your head?
For car trips, hard-boiled eggs are pretty good, quick snack. I've used those with my son. Another cool thing that is they'll take and make like a bunch of really bite-sized meatballs, and they'll bake them or broil them, and they'll take those meatballs and they'll pull them out when they're still hot and dip them in coconut oil, and then make sure and cool them down really fast. So like throw them in the freezer for like 5 minutes and then move them down to the fridge. And they're really, really good. The coconut oil actually hardens on the outside, and they're like really good little cold snacks you can pop, right out of a cooler. And that's going to be a good protein and fat meal as well.
Cool. Good stuff, man. Okay, let's keep rolling on to another question then. So this one's from Nate in Bloomington, Indiana. I was wondering where you guys find turkey, chicken, and ham without additives. Seems like everything in the store has an added broth solution. Or, in parentheses, is the added broth just fine, question mark. I know you really like the breakfast sausage made with ground turkey, so I was wondering if it's free of additives, and if so, where you get it. Thanks.
All right, great question, Nate. So I get my ground turkey from here in Lansing. We have a Lansing City Market, and I go down there, and there's a company there that's local called Otto's Chicken. And Otto's Chicken has chicken and Otto's turkey. No additives are added or natural flavorings are added to their meats. I get my ground turkey from them. I also buy my chicken from them. Non-hormone, non-antibiotic stuff. So that's kind of what I rely on right now. I know if I'm traveling, Whole Foods has some turkey that's really good quality that doesn't have additives. But I would start, just checking out local farmers markets, see if you might find something, in that way. But stay away from the big chains and big chain meat packaging. You're going to find a lot of natural flavorings and bad stuff there. So.
Yeah, that really grinds my gears. And to be honest, I just hate it when they doctor your meat before you can even eat it. I mean, that's just makes me angry.
Oh
And
yeah,
I mean,
man. I was in Walmart the other day and I grabbed a pound of beef and I had this bad feeling in my stomach because I couldn't remember why I never buy meat from Walmart, and I flipped over the back and it's chock full of natural flavorings.
yeah, they like pump it full like 10% or 15% by weight. So then you're paying for their soy broth in your chicken, like, or your beef. Like, are you serious? But Nate, when it comes to ham, I haven't seen any. The only ham that I could ever find was actually from a real local butcher, who did the whole process himself. I haven't found any prepackaged stuff, Jordan. I don't know if you've ever even searched for it, but
No, that's a great point though. Find a local butcher. You can always find a local butcher and be like, "Hey, can you just make me some ground turkey without any additives?" And usually they're pretty cool about it.
yeah, and they might know some farmers that are looking to offload some chickens or half a cow or something like that. So that's a great thing to do as well.
Excellent. Well, I got another local question for you, Steve. When you were in Chicago, did you find any good doctors or naturopaths?
Okay, great question. So I didn't actually. Of course, I didn't search too hard, but I don't have anybody to recommend off the top of my head. But I do know that the Rush University Hospital is doing that SCD study, so you might want to look into them, see if they're accepting new patients or who over there takes care of the just the gastro patients over there. Just check them out. Maybe there's somebody you can get in over there. Otherwise, I think when it comes to finding a good doctor, a good naturopath, is just to kind of call the different offices. Make a list of, say if you're in Chicago, whatever the bus line is that'll get you there, whichever ones are accessible. Make a list of the top 10 and then just call their offices and ask, do you treat digestive concerns? Do you have a lot of patients with digestive concerns? Um, and then what kind of treatment methods do you specialize in? And I think what you're going to want to look for there is you want to find a doctor who has other patients that have digestive problems, and then you're also going to want to find a naturopath or a doctor who talks about diet modification and talks about being open to more than one treatment path. So if you get somebody who's like, oh yeah, I'm 100% vegetarian and homeopathy or something, that's probably somebody you don't want to go to. When it comes with digestive concerns, even if they would have said like I'm 100% paleo and steroids or something, that's probably don't go together. But the point is, you want to look for a naturopath or a doctor who's open to multiple solutions. That way they have experience, they've seen other people like you, and they can really help you get through your problems. Okay, Jordan, I'm going to take that as you're good with that one. So let's roll on to a whammy of a question here. It's a big one. So there's quite a few parts, and I'm just going to start with kind of the backstory, and then I think both of us are going to take a few different areas of it. So here we go. Hey guys, both my husband and I have been on SCD/GAPS since 1111. We started the diet based on GAPS, but then we kind of migrated over to SCD because there was more cookbooks and resources. I started the diet because I have lifelong digestive problems, including chronic constipation, bloating, episodes of brain fog, food issues, intolerances, and in parentheses, not to mention tons of other non-gut symptoms like dry skin, fatigue, etc. Okay, so Roland, much to my surprise, my husband was willing to do the diet with me. That's awesome. Good for him. Mr. Junkie Food himself. He also has a whole host of gut-related issues, including bouts of D, not to mention extreme fatigue, sinus problems, lack of memory, debilitating migraines, etc. So here are our questions. I'm slowly working through your podcast, so forgive me if you already answered any of these questions. Note that for the supplement questions, my husband called the GI Pro guy, but was fairly surprised that he didn't get the answers. So, Jordan, question number 1. We both decided to go on Prozymes. What would you recommend for doses?
Excellent question. With Prozymes, we usually have people start out with half capsule at the first couple of meals. Usually you want to look for any stomach pain or stomach burning. If you have a really irritated stomach lining, really damaged stomach lining, you might have a slight reaction or irritation to the proteases in the enzyme. If you don't feel any burning when you try the half capsule, work your way up to 1 and then 2. 2 at every meal within a couple of days. If you do feel the burning, you're going to have to work your way up slower. So you're going to have to stay at a half a pill at every meal for 5 days, then work your way up to 1, and then go another 5 days, and then work your way up to 2, and just work through that adjustment period. So that's usually what we recommend for those.
Yeah, good stuff. And yeah, Joe, the guy from GI Pro, usually doesn't like to give specific recommendations on dosage, but Jordan's got you nailed there. So question number 2. My husband read somewhere that taking phytase between meals in addition to enzymes at meals is helpful for healing your gut. Have you come across this or tried it?
I haven't, and I did a little search, and I'm a little confused. I mean, phytase seems to be, from what I understand, it's a bacteria that's produced in the gut of ruminant animals like cattle and sheep, and they use it, for different things in their gut. Helps them, but humans and like dogs and birds do not produce phytase. I found a little bit of research that might suggest that it can help, but I would be skeptical of it. I've heard much more commonly, and I've seen studies much more commonly that show that people use proteases between meals. So just proteases and regular digestive enzymes that they'll take, 3 to 4 between meals, just to support and help heal the gut. I tried it. I'm not sold that it really made a big difference for me, but like I said, I have seen some studies here and there that suggest that it might work. I've even seen studies relating it to significantly decreasing the duration of like migraines, which oddly enough sounds like your husband suffers from. Um, so you might check into that more in terms of taking proteases, but my personal opinion, looking at phytase, I might steer clear of that right now.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And dairy is really linked to migraine. So if your husband's still doing dairy, I would get him off that right away. Try it for a week and see what happens.
Nice, nice. All right, next one. My husband has really bad sleep issues and is worried that taking the dinner dose of SCD complete might contribute to the existing problem. Do you see any downside to taking these 3 pills at breakfast and lunch versus 2 pills at breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
No, no, I don't. The big thing when you're taking vitamins and minerals that you would obtain from foods and vegetables, you want to take them with foods and vegetables. So you're already taking them at your meals. I don't think you're going to lose anything if you take 3 pills at breakfast and 3 pills at lunch, and even if you took 6 pills at breakfast, and as long as you're taking it with a balanced meal that has fat, protein, and a little bit of carbs in it, like a fruit or something, I don't see a downside there at all.
All right, excellent. Rapid fire. Do most people like the taste of coconut oil? I love coconut, but find that Tropical Traditions Gold Label Virgin Coconut Oil I ordered does not taste very good. Just wondering because you two seem to love it.
Okay, cool. So glad to see that people are trying the coconut oil. That's sweet. What I'll say is that all coconut oils seem to taste different to me. I think I've had about 4 different brands now. I've had the Tropical Traditions Gold Label. I've had Spectrum coconut oil, and I've had another organic brand. I can't think of the name. And then the current one that I have on hand and a couple jars sitting next to me is Nutivia. Excuse me. Um, it's Nutiva, and they have the organic extra version as well. And I think theirs tastes completely different than Tropical Traditions, and I actually really like the taste of Nutivia, but the Tropical Traditions, by the time I got like halfway through the jar, I was with you. I was like, I really don't like this too much. So I just used it to cook with, and I didn't really use it to eat like I do the other stuff every once in a while. So I would say just look for another brand that's organic and extra virgin and give it a shot. Jordan, which one do you use?
I like Nutiva. I do know that my sister-in-law has educated me on this, that if coconuts come from different parts of the world, they'll have a different taste to them, which I didn't know. But I hate coconut. I've hated coconut my whole life. So when I first started learning about the benefits of coconut oil and the antimicrobial effects of it, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be horrible. I'm going to have to force myself to gag this stuff down. And what I found is that if it's warm, if it's like pretty warm, like almost hot, I love it. It has a completely different taste to me than if it's just cold on a spoon or something. So like when I eat my turkey breakfast sausage, I'll have like 3 tablespoons in there, and I'll just dump it over the meat. And then when I'm done with the meat, I'll actually drink what's the warm stuff at the bottom, and I love it. It tastes totally different to me, so that might be something to try too.
Nutiva, that's how you say it.
Yeah, I could be totally wrong though. So
Probably. Yeah, but I suck at speaking, so. Okay, cool. So my husband and I both lost a lot of weight. I'm down to 120 at 5'6", and he's down to 160 at 6'1". Both of our weights have stabilized at this point. We were both extremely skinny, or we were both extremely skinny in high school and college. I was 115 and he was 150. So although we don't mind adding back 5 to 10 pounds, so although we wouldn't mind adding back 5 to 10 pounds, we are taking your advice and tracking our intake on fitday.com to do this. We are within the healthy weight zone for our heights and don't think this is too big of a deal. However, people are really concerned about our weight. Have you found a nice way of responding to people that doesn't make them feel bad? We love most of these people, but most of them are overweight and have really bad diets.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good question. I got that a lot, and it was really funny because uh, my perspective was like, hey, you wouldn't go up to a really overweight person and say, hey, you're looking really overweight today. And people are coming to me and saying, God, you're looking really skinny, and it's like, what makes you think that it's okay to do that? But I know that they're just trying to be concerned, and the other perspective to have is that the people that they're comparing you to, for the most part, are people that are on, the standard American diet and are storing buckets of fat, and they're just plumper than people that are on a low carb, paleo type SCD diet. So there's going to be a difference in body type to a degree, but once you start to heal and get the inflammation down and get your hormone levels back normal, you'll look more healthy. Also, it helps if you get some sun. But my advice when people would say something like that, like, hey, you're looking really skinny today, I would actually just smile and say thank you, as if it was a compliment. That's the best way I found to handle it. And it totally shocked them because they came from a place of concern, and I was like, thank you. And that usually ended the situation, and we can move on with our lives. But just keep going at it. Over time as you heal and the inflammation goes down, you'll start looking more healthy. Get some sun. That always helps.
That's good advice, man. I know we could spend probably an entire podcast talking about this, but yeah, I think the thing to note there is definitely that the scale is shifted towards what 70% of Americans now overweight or obese. So if you Google like a picture of 1950s beach or 1940s beach, and you look at all the people out there who are healthy back then and the average size of the people, you'll notice that that's what the normal size should be. Okay, so let's move on. Question number 6. So we are in Chicago, and this year the allergies are wicked. I'm sure the same in Michigan, in parentheses. Everyone around us has runny nose and itchy eyes. Do you have a good way to tell the difference between seasonal allergies and food intolerances? I know for a fact that I added way too many foods in way too fast of a fashion, and I'll probably have to go back and eliminate some stuff because my husband and I were having some issues with mental clarity and runny noses even before the outside started to bud and bloom. But do you think I should wait until after this bad bout of seasonal allergies to do this?
Okay, so there's a lot of stuff there. Allergies are really bad. I know. I've been getting. We went to our really good allergist that we both have here in Lansing. She did the intradermal provocative neutralization testing for food allergies, but she also does a variation of it. The name is slipping me right now, for environmental allergies, and she did a wonderful job. I know that I'm very, very allergic to grasses, and they were really, really bad for the last 2 weeks. At this point, the only reaction I get is my eyes turn red. But that's after 2 years of getting some shots and then also lowering the inflammation in my body. So the higher your inflammation is, the more you're going to react to allergies, both environmental and food allergies. Um, what I would say in terms of identifying the difference, food allergies are probably going to be, something that happens right away when you eat something or within an hour or two, and it's probably going to go away at some point. Maybe the next morning when you wake up you'll feel better. Whereas a seasonal allergy is pretty relentless, in spurts. Like if your grasses are really bad, it's going to be relentless for the first couple weeks of June. If you have hay fever, that's going to be really relentless at a different time of the year. So that's the best way to kind of distinguish there, I think. As far as introducing foods and things like that, I wouldn't wait until a bad bout of seasonal allergies. I would look at trying to get some good allergy testing, and we'll post a link to how to find a good allergist that has more reliable environmental allergy information. But I wouldn't wait. I mean, usually the difference is pretty interesting, and Steve can probably elaborate more on his experience with dairy reaction versus seasonal allergies. So,
Yeah, I would say the seasonal allergies, the symptoms are kind of close to the same, but for me, the allergies definitely do more in the eyes, like you talked about, eyes watering and red and itchy and that kind of thing. I've never really gotten that from food. So if that's a symptom, I would tend to think that that's more of an environmental allergy. But the sinus drainage and the phlegm, things like that, those could be either or. Headaches and that kind of thing usually are more environmental as well. But there's no reason to start right now as far as eliminating some foods and just seeing if you feel better. So don't let that stop you. And then I would suggest, getting some skin prick environmental testing done and just see what the outcome is.
that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I've never had an eye reaction to a food, even when I was the sickest. So that's a good point. All right, well, I'll keep rolling here. Do you know if Annie's mustards are SCD legal? They appear to be from the labels, but no illegal ingredients are listed.
Eeh. Spitting it out. Okay, so great question. I have no idea, to be honest, and I didn't Google it for a reason. I didn't check it out for a reason, and that is, I just want to point out that when you try any, you know, processed food of any type, whether it's canned tuna, whether it's Annie's mustards, whether it's um, anything. You're taking the risk and you're putting your faith in the company that made it. And even if the company is the most reliable company and they're the best friends on earth, they still probably used a manufacturing process to create it. And inside that manufacturing plant are chemicals that have to, they have to pass FDA inspections. They have to pass all kinds of manufacturing inspections. So they have to, they probably use a ton of ammonia. They might use some bleach. There's a lot of different chemicals that they use to just manufacture food that are going to end up in some way or form or fashion into these processed SCD legal foods. So you know, is Annie's Mustard's SE legal? Elaine always wanted you to write the company and get a handwritten letter that, says that they trust us because then you can use that in court if you wanted or something. So a lot of people won't even do it these days. But the question is, are you willing to put your faith in them? And then you have to acknowledge the risk that you're taking by trying any of these products that are processed. So most likely they're legal. Most likely Annie's is a great company, and they're not doing anything against the law, and they're not misrepresenting anything. But just like every time you go to a restaurant, you're giving away a little bit of what you know about the food you're eating. And so you have to be okay with that, and you have to be prepared for any consequences. I'm not saying that I don't do it, but I'm just saying these are some things to think about.
All right, that's great. So let's move on here. We got one more. When you suggest eliminating dairy to see if it's one of the items causing you trouble, does that include butter, which could be done by going back to ghee?
Okay, great question. When we talk about eliminating dairy for like 3 or 4 days, yes, I would throw butter in there or throw butter out for 4 days. Well, keep it. It's not going to go bad. But butter's 98% fat, so the likelihood of you reacting to it is a lot less than anything else in the dairy family. Especially ghee, which is even more clarified than butter. Um, but when you're doing a test like dairy-free for 4 days, just don't use it for 4 days. It's pretty simple. Let's just take all the guesswork out of it. And then on the fifth day, eat a half stick of butter and see if anything changes. And then nothing changes, add back in the rest of the dairy a couple days later. But I think this just comes from like a testing perspective, testing, trying. Even though the biochemistry suggests that it's 98% fat, and you might not have a problem with it. Like don't leave it to chance. Just make sure that when you do the test once, you don't have to go without butter ever again.
Excellent, excellent. Well, let's roll to the last question, man. I'm ready.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, thanks for that multi-part question, and it's awesome that you asked all those questions. We thought they were all pretty value added. So last question of the night. this person, RJ, thanks RJ. So RJ's been on SCD for over 2 years, and he's wondering if there's a written version or transcript of the podcast that he could read.
Great question. No, sorry, there isn't right now, but we would love to have them at this point. If anybody out there would like to transcribe them for us or knows how to do it with the software really quickly, we would love that. If you want to send them in, we'll post them right along with all the podcasts and just give them away to everybody to download. So let us know. Send us an email.
Yeah, we'd love to have PDFs to give to people because we know a lot of people like to learn in different fashions, and they might want to highlight stuff or something. So if you have a solution, we are willing to listen.
All right, excellent. Well, Steve, where can people keep submitting questions to us?
So we'll have a link at the bottom of this, or right near the play button, actually, that'll say, go to SurveyMonkey and put your question in there. We'd love to have you keep submitting your questions, and the more detailed background that you give us, the better chance we are going to have of giving you the specific recommendations that that might improve your health the fastest or something like that. The other thing to do is, if you like to learn in multiple ways, obviously you can start with our book as well. And we do have the audio version of our book right now. It's an MP3. You can burn it on a CD. You can put it on your iPod. You can listen in the car, on the bus, the train, wherever. So we do try to use the different learning styles for people. Jordan, you got anything to wrap it up with?
No, man, it's been fun. It's been fun. We got to get back into it here.
Yeah, we'll keep these podcasts coming. So we just want to thank everyone for listening. This has been the SC Lifestyle Solution Podcast number 24.